Hey, and welcome to episode 35 of Create If Writing.
I can't go back to sleep, it's almost light. These restless thoughts have kept me up again tonight.
Welcome to Create If Writing. I'm your host, Kirsten Oliphant, and this is a podcast for writers, bloggers, and other creatives all about authentic platform building without being smarmy. So on today's episode, which is a solo episode, just me, no interview, I am going to be tackling a reader question, which I love having questions from you guys. And if you ever do, I don't always advertise like, hey, I'm going to answer your questions, but I just happen to not have anything particular that I was like really fired up to talk about this week. So I asked my community and Facebook and got some really great responses. So I actually have other questions I'll probably address in later episodes. But if you are ever interested in asking those kinds of questions, please join the community or sign up for my email list. Because this question, I had some in my Facebook group and then I had another, this one actually came through email. So if you want to either join the community and you're not there already, you can go to createifwriting.com/community. Pretty simple, pretty basic. And then if you want to subscribe to the email list, which has tons of options, I give great links every week that are resources to help you along with tools and inspiration. You can sign up for that at createifwriting.com/subscribe. Again, very basic. I also have live trainings that I do every month, like workshops you can attend, kind of like a webinar, usually without a sales pitch. And if there is one, I will warn you ahead of time in case you're not into that sort of thing. But again, I'm not smarmy with my sales pitches. That's something I've been working on. So anyway, you should definitely subscribe to my email and also join the community because I feel like they work really well together, but they serve different functions. And maybe that's a good podcast topic all to itself, is the idea of what functions different kind of platforms have for you. I'll write that one down. But today, I want to talk with you about a question from Sara Borgsteed. And I hope I'm getting your name right, Sara. And I really should have asked that when I responded to your email, but I didn't. So you can find her at Sara, and that's a no H Sara, Borgsteed.com. So it's SaraBorg. Wait, now I think I'm spelling it wrong. Now I have to look it up again, Sara. Man, I'm sorry. That's just what I did. I had it open. Now I can't find it. Nope, that's not it. This is what happens. Okay, so it's SaraBorgsted.com, Sara Borgsteed. And I like the sort of tagline of her blog, which is The Holy Mess. So definitely go check that out. So I'm going to read to you a little bit of her question and then kind of dive right into some thoughts that I have about this. So she wanted me to address, she didn't actually spell out the question in a question form, but she said she would love to hear about the seasons or stages of blogging. And then I'm going to read to you a little bit from her email to kind of explain. So here is what Sara says. At first, I just posted randomly about myself. That was my all about me stage. Now I've got my editorial calendar and I'm doing the whole Pinterest thing. I consider this my Pinterest stage. I hear you on the sponsored posts. And a note about that, I just said, for me, personally, Kirsten, I really hated and got tired of sponsored posts. Okay, back to Sara. I've started to delve into that and am not thrilled, and I don't think my customers really like them either. I do need to make some income, though. I have a product, and that's www.faithfulfinishlines.com. It does well, but it's a tremendous amount of work. I run it, a 7-week program, a couple times a year. I need to offer more smaller products to go along with it, or products that can be purchased anytime. So I sent Sara to my old blog, which was basically a blog where I just wrote whatever I wanted to write whenever. It was like 6 updates a day about what I was eating or my kids were eating or funny things they said. It was just very, very personal. And she said this, I got kind of teary. When I first started blogging, I really wanted to do that. And I kind of started doing that. And then I kept reading, quote, people don't want to read about you, write for the reader, end quote. So I quit, but I miss writing like that and just being myself. My blog does well. I haven't been blogging very long and I get 100,000 page views a month. note, way to go, Sara. That's awesome. End of my note. And I do enjoy it. And it is me, but it's not me. Help. Is there a way to somehow do both and not lose this good thing I have going here? I thought I was all set with my blog goals and vision, and now I feel confused. So that's the end of Sara's emails kind of that I pieced together, and I did get her permission. So thank you so much, Sara, for the great question and also kind of the follow-up and letting me share this. I wanted to address, I have two sort of responses to this and then kind of a longer rambly bit about stages or seasons. But I want to start here. And the real question, the root of this question, I think, is should you write for yourself or should you write for your readers? So let me say that again. Should you write for yourself or should you write for your readers? And I'd be really curious to know what you think about that. So you definitely need to head over to the show notes and leave a comment. They will be at createifwriting.com/035. So there are two things I think that can help you answer that question, because really the answer is both for the most part, but you have to answer two things. Or actually you have to answer one question and then consider one other thing. So the question you need to answer is, why are you blogging? Okay. And if we're talking about a wider range of content or other places, why are you writing what you're writing? Why are you producing that kind of content? And in episode, I'm going to have to look back now. I'm not exactly sure what episode, but in one of my earlier episodes, and I'm looking now, I spoke with Paula Rollo about intentional blogging. And let's see, I'm scrolling back through. That was episode 5 on the Creative Writing Podcast. And we talked about intentional blogging, and she had some really great things to say. So I'll link to that again in the show notes. But how you blog, what you write about, how often you blog, the tone you use, the images you use, all of those decisions really should come back to why you are blogging. So I'll take some kind of extreme examples. Say your husband loses his job, or you don't have a job, you lose your job, and you need to support yourself or your family on your income alone. Okay, that kind of blog means that you are going to have the intention that you need to make a full-time income. And so the decisions that you make about everything are going to be based on making a full-time income, which is going to look sort of like, what will people read that are going to get that, what's going to get me page views if that's how you're making your money through ads or sponsored posts? What kinds of sponsored posts can I write? What kind of books could I sell? What kind of products could I create to produce a full-time income? That is really different than someone who is blogging because they want a writing outlet and they just want to write. So those are two really extreme examples, but I think they can kind of help frame that, because if you are writing because you want to write, the schedule, the pace, the types of posts you write, all of that is totally up to you. And if you don't care who's reading it, like if it's just an exercise for you, then again, it really is more about you than the audience. Now, if you're writing because you want to write, and also you would really like to have 100,000 page views a month, then that's going to look a little bit different than if you're just writing for yourself. So there's kind of like the primary why, and then also maybe a secondary why, because, maybe you're writing because you need to support your family, but you also have certain things that you don't ever want to talk about or lines you don't want to cross, or maybe your secondary purpose is that you really want to have a book traditionally published. So you want to get those page views, you want the income right now, but your long-term goal is to approach a publisher or be approached by a publisher to actually write a book. So that again is going to look different than if someone's long-term goal is to eventually pass off the whole blog to, virtual assistants to write the guest post and do everything else and kind of put it on autopilot, or even sell the blog. Like if you're building a blog that you think is more like a website that you could sell down the road, again, very, very different. So I'm giving you kind of extreme examples, but it's really important to look at your why. Now, if you guys did not already get my free blog planner, and I say blog planner because I couldn't think of a better way to name it. It's more of like a big strategy guide for your blog and your online platform. If you have a better name, let me know. But, shoot me an email and tell me, because that's something I offer now to all subscribers. And many people on my list have joined that way, joined through getting that planner. So if you haven't gotten that, let me know. I would love to send that to you for free. But it really does help outline the strategy and the why, your long-term goals, which are like, maybe like your 5 or 10 year plan, or just your lifetime plan. Like I want to be a published author. Like that's something that's maybe a lifetime plan. Maybe your year plan for that is I want to finish writing a manuscript. And then you're sort of like more short-term plan is that you need to start setting aside that time each day or building your platform or something else. So that planner really walks you through the strategy. But if you have not kind of, laid out and sat down and written out that why or the whys, like your main purpose and then maybe one other purpose, because I do think we have secondary purposes that can help inform the first or make it a more clear focus. You need to do that because you're always going to struggle with the question of who are you writing for if you have not discovered your why. So that is so, so, so important. And honestly, I feel like a broken record sometimes because I'm always telling people, look for your why. If you've taken the free email course, you know that I start there. A lot of my trainings actually start with the why because it is that important and it helps you make decisions and takes less time later down the road when you have to make a decision. If you can filter that through your why, it's much easier. So in thinking about Sarah's longer question, and should you write for yourself or other people, the first part of that is your why, because that really matters. And so you have to answer that. I can't answer that for you. But then the second thing I'm going to say is balance, no matter what your why is. And so this isn't a question to answer, but just kind of part 2 of my answer. Once you have your why figured out, I do think it's about balance. And the balance for everybody is going to look different. And the balance also depends on your why. So if you want to write for income, but you also really want to enjoy it, that's going to look different than if you're like, I don't care if I enjoy it. I really just need money and I need it today. And so that's going to look a little bit different in terms of how you balance out what your readers want and what you want. Because if you're trying to make an income, full-time income, especially if there's a lot of pressure, like if you lost your job and you're like, I have to make money this month to pay for my apartment or my food or anything else, then it really may not matter as much what you want to write about. Now, the caveat to that is, of course, you want to write kind of in the area like if you're like, okay, well, entrepreneurs make a lot of money telling people how to blog, but you don't know how to blog, that's not the blog you start. But, you need to start at least somewhere that you have at least some nominal interest or knowledge about, whether that's parenting or writing or how to, repair cars. I mean, there are blogs all over the place in all kinds of topics. So that, in that sense, it is for you because you want to write about something that you know. But if you are just starting out and you need to make an income and you know about several topics, research which ones seem to have a better income, which ones seem to have more popular blogs, which ones do really well on a social media platform, which ones do you think you could make a viable income blogging about. So in that sense, even if you're doing an income where it's mostly going to focus on, what the readers want, then you still need to at least take into account what you can write about. I mean, that seems obvious, but I just wanted to put that in there. But if you are, I would like to make money doing the things that I do. I feel like that's an okay thing to want to get paid for your writing and for your work. I also want to produce a lot of free content. And so for me, I want to make an income, but there's certain things I have decided I don't want to do because I really want to do the things I'm passionate about and I really want to serve my community. So for me, that has meant, at least for now, I've taken off all ads on my sites. And, last month I had on my personal blog, which is kirstenoliphant.com. It's more of a lifestyle blog about parenting, food. I don't write as much as I used to there. But, I've taken the ads off, but last month I had a huge surge in traffic when I had a viral post. And I was like, wait, why did I take off my ads again? I mean, it would have probably only been like $100, $200. I don't know. But, it would have been something. So, I may rethink that at some point, but I think I just got kind of over the blogging game and kind of the sponsored posts. And for the most part, I don't want to write sponsored posts either. And I did have a partnership for a little while that I felt like I couldn't keep up long-term with Imperial Sugar. And so for about 6 months, I wrote a post or 2 posts every month. And they were just food posts. I could make up whatever recipes I wanted and, talk about Imperial Sugar in there in a natural way. And so that was something I felt like, okay, this is a kind of sponsored post I can write. But working with some of the networks that I had worked with before, like Social Fabric and Collective Bias, although the same thing, and some of those kind of networks that pair bloggers and sponsored posts, I just decided I'm not doing those anymore. And, this is where that season idea comes in that Sarah asked about, because there was a season where that was okay. And I think I really just needed to try it out. I would like to say I don't think I will be doing that kind of post again, unless I'm working directly with a company that I really feel passionate about. That's when I would write a sponsored post. But for the most part, it's not a seasonal thing. I tried it in a season where I was trying to figure out how to make income from my blog. And then I decided I didn't like it. So I don't think I'll go back to that. So that's, it was a season of trial, I guess, not a season of, I need to make money, so I have to do sponsored posts. I was just kind of trying things. But, it is all about the balance, getting back to that, circling back. You need to think about what, if you have the choice, which I think most of us do. I know a lot of people who blog for income, but I don't know a lot of people who are blogging and relying on that. Like they will not have food on the table if they don't blog. I don't know a lot of people producing that kind of content. And so I think that is a really different place than somebody like me who is like, I would love to make more money from what I do and I want to do what I love. So if I can get paid for doing what I love, that's awesome. But I'm going to go ahead and do what I love no matter what the size of the paycheck is. So that's where I'm at. And so that balance looks a little bit different. So I want to find readers. I want to serve my community. I ask my community through surveys and just through questions in my emails and in my Facebook group what they want to hear about, what they have trouble with. And then I write about those things. But some of them I can't speak to. Some of them I don't want to speak to. And that's where I will send people away. I'll send them to another blog or I'll give them a link that will help answer the question because that's just not something I'm interested in. I like to follow my curiosity and my passion. And I think that is kind of a hallmark of who I am and who I want to be. And so there are times maybe where that limits, some of the opportunities I have. But at the same time, I think that really helps define those opportunities and really helps me to focus better on what I want to do with my blog. So you have to ask yourself why. Why are you doing what you're doing? Why are you producing the content you're producing? And then also find that balance. And, it may look more like in the middle, like somewhere in the middle of what you want and what your readers want, or depending on your why, it may be more like you just need to focus on your readers. Or if you're just writing for yourself, then don't worry about your audience. If you really don't want any readers, and that's very few people I will say that don't want readers. But if you don't want readers, then clearly your balance is like more on the side of just what you want to do. And so as far as seasons go, I want to talk about that just a little bit as well, because I think it's really important to note that blogging itself has had many seasons or stages. And I should have really looked up the numbers and the dates with this, but I don't have them. But blogging started really as, blog is shortened for web log. And they were really online diaries. Like people were using LiveJournal, for example, and just writing a diary and making it kind of public. Some people did it anonymously or with, different usernames. But blogs were really born out of a very personal, like taking the personal and making it private, taking the personal and putting it in a public space. And this is actually what turned me off of blogs for so many years, because I thought, what in the world would I have to say that everybody wants to read? And isn't that so narcissistic? Which I think very few people still say. Every now and then I hear people talk about that. But so blogging moved from LiveJournal and that kind of space. I'm not actually sure if that's even around. I'll have to look. To platforms like Blogger, when Blogger first came out, which was Blogspot Blogspot back then. I don't think it still is. And then WordPress came around. So people then moved to a different kind of platform. And back in the early days, blogs didn't have like comment section. I remember when I talked with Darren Rouse from ProBlogger about his early days, he talked all about how, when blogs first started, there was no way to actually like comment on people's blogs. You just sort of wrote things, which is a really interesting, I don't know. That's just this, I was not blogging then. I was not reading blogs then. That was in episode 18 of Creative Writing, if you want to read or listen to what Darren Rouse had to say. But so they moved from the LiveJournal to, platforms like Blogger and WordPress. And they were still very personal. I mean, the early days of blogs, my blogs were very personal. I think most people's were. And I think the way that most people read blogs, they would go, I would go to my favorite blog's homepage. Like I would type in www.whatever.com and go read the blog, like see what was new. And, I would just daily go through like the 4 or 5 or 6 or however many blogs I really loved. I would go see if there was anything new. That's how I read blogs. You did not promote on social media. That was not a thing. I don't think people were really making money at first back in the days when I started blogging. I think I started in 2005. just posting mostly photos of our family, and then started like writing a blog in 2007. So back then you did not post on social media. That was just not a thing. So then blogs moved to where people were sharing links to them on social media, links to posts and things like that, and really promoting using Twitter, using Facebook to promote. And more platforms, rose up like Pinterest, where, it's all about sending traffic back to your blog. So as that shift happened and people started actually making money blogging then became a little bit more polished. And this, of course, this does not reflect every single person's experience, but this is sort of a very general, broad strokes kind of look at blogging as a whole. So blogging then moved into a more professional, more polished look where people were, blogs looked a lot like websites. Back in the day, like blogs looked like a blog. It could not be confused with a website. And blogs now, I think, really are a lot more of a website where a lot of them, they look very polished, very professional. They, sometimes there's a homepage and then the blog page is separate for a lot of bloggers, where there's like a landing page or something else. It's very different than what blogs looked like back in the day on Blogger, where the entire, you'd go to a www, you'd see every entry in entirety. If you wanted to read, you would keep just scrolling. You'd scroll. Now that sounded really weird the way I said it. Scroll. Sorry. You would scroll and read. And now a lot of times it's like a shortened little post, like read more when you hit a blog's landing page. It's just really changed a lot. And I think, according to Paula, who again was in episode 5, she has said that it's now swinging back because, the very personal blogs with very personal photos, very personal writing moved to stock photos in a lot of cases, and to more professional writing where I could be on your blog or somebody else's blog about the same subject like parenting, and I couldn't tell them apart. And so I think that maybe swung the pendulum too far. Like, I think it's great that bloggers became more polished. I think it was really good for me to do that. But at the same time, I miss some of the off-the-cuff writing that I did where, as Sara said in her message to me, it used to be you just wrote whatever, and then it became you need to write for your audience. And I think sometimes I don't think people are very good at balance, just in general. I know I'm not. But it's like a pendulum that's constantly swinging. And I think just as the blogging in general has swung so far over to the very polished that it's almost like there's no personality behind, so, these blogs are interchangeable. I think it is swinging back. I think Paul's right. And I appreciate that because I think it's, if I want to read a blog, if I want to read a website, I'll go to something like, I actually hate parenting.com because they make you click through 18 things to get to read one post. But, Pop Sugar, Babbel, a site like that where there's lots of contributors. It doesn't really matter who's writing them. It's just sort of like general parenting things. Whereas a blog, if I'm going to go to someone's blog, I want to know that person. I want it to be distinct. I want them to have their unique writing voice, their unique perspective, or else I don't really want to read it. Like I can just read something else. So I think it's good that it's swinging back to be a little bit more personal. But now, I think that blogs have the polish and people have seen what's possible in terms of income and reach and all those things with a blog. I think hopefully we'll keep the best aspects of, design and some of those basic things, but also maybe people will bring back the voice and tone down the stock photos a little bit. Like on creative writing, I don't mind stock photos because it's about writing, it's not personal. But on my personal blog, I used them a couple times. I used stock photos of like another mom and her kid. And I was like, that just feels weird. This is my blog about my kids. Unless you have a problem with putting photos of your kids online, which that's a whole different discussion, then why am I using a photo of some other mom and her kids? And so I decided, I actually sat down after thinking about my whys and how I wanted to serve my audience. And I wrote down kind of things I will do, things I won't do, and things I won't do, the things that went in that category. I decided not to use stock photos on KirstenOliphant.com anymore. And also I decided not to do sponsored posts anymore unless it was me working directly with a brand that I was very passionate about and that I might write about even if I weren't getting paid. So those were kind of the guidelines to help me make decisions through that process. So, thinking about blogging, having seasons, I don't know how long you've been blogging, but if you've been blogging for, a couple of years, you've probably had your own seasons. My seasons followed kind of the blogging overall trend where it was very personal, then it became more professional. And then for me, it definitely swung back. But, you may have your own seasons. And, if your why may change, which is why I think it's so important to be strategic and be intentional with what you're doing. Strategy may sound really fancy to you, but at least be intentional. I think that's a really good thing to think about, because how, your why and those intentions behind will help you. It'll make your life easier. It's going to help you know what to post, what kinds of things to post, how to speak to your audience, where to connect with your audience, and, how often. All of those questions really are best answered when you know why you're doing what you're doing. So I'm going to leave you with that. And Sarah, I don't know if that fully answers the question of seasons. I hope that it's encouraging, but it doesn't give you a full answer because, as I often say, I think there are very few things where it's one size fits all. The only time I really like hearing, people telling you the answer to something or other is if there's like a technical question, like if you want to know, for example, I've talked a lot about webinars to people or live workshops, and people have asked how to set up a webinar. I can give you tech training on the different ways to set up a webinar. I can't tell you which one's best because I think, again, that goes back to your why, but I can show you technically how to do it. And I think that that's a really different thing than someone trying to claim like this is the way that you write a blog, because there's no one way you write a blog. You write a blog how you write a blog, and there's a lot of different ways, and it depends on your why and the balance you want to keep in your life. So I don't have a full answer for everybody, but I think if you're trying to answer these questions, and if you're struggling with the balance, if you're struggling with how to know what to write for you or for your audience, and to find sort of that sweet spot of enjoying what you do, maybe making money if that's part of your purposes, but writing for yourself and writing for your audience, I think it's time to sit down and answer why. And then maybe come up with some guidelines to help you as you are answering questions about like what kinds of posts and what kinds of photos and what style you're writing in and what kind of voice and how formal or how familiar you are in your writing and in your tone and in the word choices you make. All of those things kind of trickle down and are best answered when you know the intentions behind what you're doing. Okay. So I leave you with that. I would love to know what you think. You can head over to creativewriting.com/035 for episode 35 to let me know what you think about writing for yourself or writing for your audience. So I don't have a ton of announcements this week. I'm glad to have gotten this time. We have sick kids again, and so this barely got done in this tiny window that I have. I appreciate Sarah's question and would love to chat with you more. So make sure you are subscribed to the email creativewriting.com/subscribe and are in the Facebook community creativewriting.com/community. And a big thank you, as always, to Jasmine Commerce of jasminecommercemusic.com for the lovely, lovely tunes that you hear playing. I'm really thankful that you're listening and that you are here, and I hope that you have an inspired week.